Hello there. Tonight we'll journey through the Terracotta Army and the first emperor of China, a place where thousands of clay soldiers stand frozen in silence beneath the earth, guarding a man who wanted to rule not only life but eternity. Some rulers build monuments for pride, but Qin Shi Huang built an entire army to keep him safe in death, which feels less like confidence and more like someone who never really trusted retirement. And if you have ever worried about who will water your plants when you're gone, just know the first emperor solved it by building 8,000 babysitters out of clay. Now, before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you're new here, know that this video is designed to help you relax or even fall asleep while your subconscious drifts back in time to ancient China's most ambitious dream. Picture the year around 221 BCE. China was not yet one vast empire, but a patchwork of warring states, each with its own armies, its own rulers, its own ambitions. For centuries, they fought across valleys and rivers, shifting alliances, endless battles. Into this chaos rose a man named Ying Zheng, ruler of the Qin state. He was young, fierce, and absolutely relentless. By the age of 38, he had conquered all rivals and declared himself the first emperor of China. Imagine a chess game that had dragged on for centuries, and one player suddenly swept every piece off the board. That was Qin Shi Huang. His new empire stretched vast mountains, rivers, plains, and distant coasts. To hold it together, he standardized weights and measures, coins, laws, and even the width of wagon axles. This was a man who wanted order above all. Have you ever rearranged your desk just to feel in control? Qin rearranged an entire civilization. He ordered roads built across the empire, canals dug for transport, and sections of walls linked to form the beginnings of what would become the Great Wall. His reach was everywhere. But with power came fear. Qin Shi Huang feared rebellion. He feared betrayal. And above all, he feared death. He sought medicines, elixirs, and alchemists who promised immortality. Ironically, many of these potions were laced with mercury, which slowly poisoned him instead. Do you not find it oddly human that even the mightiest ruler could not accept mortality? For all his armies, he wanted one more victory against time itself, and so he ordered the creation of his underground empire, an army of clay, life-sized, detailed, and armed with real weapons. Not a few statues, but thousands. Each soldier unique in face and armor, lined up in rows across underground chambers. This was no symbolic gesture. This was a belief that he could command them in the afterlife. Imagine walking into darkness and finding not a tomb, but a frozen military camp. Endless soldiers standing silently in rank. It is both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Archaeologists first uncovered the Terracotta Army in 1974, when farmers digging a well struck hardened clay. Piece by piece, the soldiers emerged from earth, their faces intact, their hands gripping weapons long rusted, and the scale grew larger with every trench. Pits stretching hundreds of meters, packed with soldiers, horses, chariots, entire battalions buried underground for 2,000 years. Have you ever lost a single sock in your laundry and felt frustrated? Now imagine losing 8,000 soldiers under a field until someone happened to dig a hole. The detail of these figures remains astonishing. Each face carries distinct features, no two alike. Hairstyles differ, armor shifts with rank, expressions vary from stern to calm. Some scholars believe real soldiers may have been used as models. Others think artisans simply wanted to ensure individuality. Whatever the case, the army looks alive even in stillness. If you stand among them, you feel as though they could march at any moment. The pits are organized like a real army camp. The largest pit holds the main force of infantry, lined in rows, armed with spears and crossbows. Another pit holds cavalry, horses with riders sculpted carefully, ears pricked, mouths open as if neighing. Chariots once stood here too, though their wooden frames decayed long ago. Even generals were carved, taller, heavier, their armor more elaborate. It is not just an army, it is a mirror of the emperor's real forces. Do you not find that remarkable? A ruler so obsessed with control that he recreated his military underground, not just statues of himself, but every soldier he might need. It is as if someone today buried replicas of an entire air force, navy, and army under their backyard, just in case eternity called for war. The work required to build this army must have been immense. Thousands of artisans labored for decades, shaping clay, firing it in kilns, painting it in bright colors that have since faded. Each figure once shone with reds, blues, greens, blacks. Today, they appear muted, but originally they must have looked like a living force marching in full dress. Imagine standing with a torch in one of those pits when the paint was still fresh, surrounded by color and shine. It would have looked less like art and more like magic. And beyond the army lies the true mystery, the emperor's tomb itself. Ancient records describe rivers of mercury flowing through underground chambers, palaces of bronze, ceilings studded with jewels like stars. Yet the central tomb has never been opened. Fears of mercury poisoning, fears of damage, and respect for cultural heritage keep it sealed. What lies beneath remains one of archaeology's greatest secrets. Pause with me and consider this. 2,000 years ago, men carried clay and stone, shaping soldiers day by day, year by year. They knew they would never see the afterlife they built. Only the emperor would. Yet still they worked, following orders, leaving behind a wonder that we marvel at today. Have you ever thought about how many people build things they never see finished? Cathedrals, canals, empires. Corral had its pyramids. Qin had his army. Humanity always reaches for permanence. The Terracotta Army stands as proof of that reach. Silent, countless, unblinking, a ruler who could not trust even death to release him, surrounded by soldiers who would never desert him. And now, we stand above them, staring down into pits where history breathes without moving. The story of Qin Shi Huang is not only about clay soldiers, it is about a man who tried to bend the entire world to his will. To understand the Terracotta Army, you must see the emperor who demanded it. His life was shaped by endless war, born into the Warring States period, a time when rival kingdoms clawed at each other like wolves over meat. From this chaos he rose, uniting every rival through conquest. By the time he declared himself the first emperor, the land had bled for centuries, and he believed only total order could hold it together. His methods were ruthless. He standardized not only weights and measures, but writing systems, legal codes, and even the width of wagon axles. Roads stretched across the empire so his armies could march swiftly. Canals carried grain from south to north. He burned books that challenged his ideology, buried scholars who resisted. Some remember him as a visionary, others as a tyrant. Perhaps both are true. Have you ever met someone who organizes a room so neatly it feels impressive, but also a little terrifying? That was Qin Shi Huang, except his room was all of China. The Terracotta Army reflects this obsession with order. Each pit is arranged with military precision, infantry in the front, officers in command posts, cavalry on the flanks, no detail ignored. Even in death, he wanted the same discipline that won him life. Do you not find it telling that he could not imagine an afterlife without structure? While others dreamed of paradise or rest, he built another battlefield. The soldiers themselves reveal the artistry of the craftsman. Each head is unique, faces broad or narrow, eyes deep or shallow, hair tied differently. Their armor was crafted with detail, plates layered carefully, straps visible. Horses stand ready with muscles carved in tension, ears forward as if hearing commands. It is as though the artisans were not building statues but living doubles. Imagine creating one clay model for practice, then repeating that effort thousands of times with new variation every time. It was mass production, yet also individuality. Color once covered these statues. Traces of pigments show reds for robes, purples for armor, greens and blacks for belts and boots. The paint flaked away quickly after excavation. But in the darkness underground, they must have looked vibrant. Picture torchlight flickering across rows of brightly painted soldiers, shadows shifting across their faces. It would feel like standing among real troops waiting silently for orders. The workforce behind this wonder included thousands of laborers, artisans, and likely prisoners. Workshops surrounded the burial site, producing weapons, molds, and clay parts. Kilns fired night and day, the air heavy with smoke. This was not the project of a few years, but decades of constant effort. Some estimate 700,000 workers were involved in constructing the tomb complex. Have you ever assembled furniture with friends and felt tired after 2 hours? Now multiply that effort by lifetimes, and you glimpse what this project required. The weapons given to the soldiers were real: bronze swords, spears, crossbows, many still sharp when discovered, protected by special chemical treatments. This detail shows the emperor did not see them as symbols, but as functional tools for battle in another realm. He prepared as if death were another war, and he refused to enter it unarmed. Do you not find it fascinating how fear shaped his vision? For all his victories, Qin Shi Huang feared betrayal, feared rebellion, feared death. His tomb and army were attempts to control what could not be controlled. It is both tragic and human. The same man who unified China could not unify himself with mortality. The tomb itself remains sealed, but ancient texts describe wonders inside. Rivers of mercury flowing through channels to mimic the Yangtze and Yellow rivers. A ceiling studded with pearls and gems to form constellations. Palaces built underground with bronze walls. Servants, artisans, and possibly even concubines buried alive to serve him in eternity. Legends mix with facts, yet enough mercury has been detected in soil above the tomb to suggest truth behind the stories. Imagine a chamber glittering like a night sky, with silver rivers glinting below, and at the center the body of the emperor. It sounds like fantasy, but it may wait beneath our feet still. Archaeologists hesitate to open it. The technology to preserve such treasures without destroying them may not yet exist. When early pits were opened, colors on the soldiers faded within minutes as air touched them. Imagine opening the central tomb too early and losing details forever. That fear holds back exploration. So the emperor still sleeps surrounded by mystery. In life, he also sought immortality in strange ways. Alchemists promised him elixirs, potions brewed with rare minerals. Many contained mercury, believed then to hold eternal power. Ironically, the poison may have shortened his life. He traveled across the empire seeking herbs, magic islands, anything to prolong his years. Have you ever known someone who buys endless health supplements hoping for miracles? Qin was the ancient version, except his pills were lethal. His paranoia grew with age. He traveled with decoys, sending identical carriages in multiple directions so assassins could not track him. He trusted few people and built systems of control to watch every corner. Even so, he died on one of his tours, far from the capital. His ministers hid his death for weeks as they moved his body back, filling the carriage with fish to mask the smell. The first emperor who wanted eternity, undone by the simplest truth. And yet, in death, he gained the immortality he sought. His tomb and his army preserved his name for millennia. Tourists today walk through museums, staring at clay soldiers, whispering his story. He has not been forgotten. Perhaps that is a form of immortality more real than alchemy. Do you not think memory is the truest afterlife? Standing among the Terracotta Army today, you feel both awe and unease. Awe at the scale, unease at the obsession it represents. Each soldier stares forward, silent, eternal. Their stillness feels alive in its own way. It is as if they wait for a signal that never comes. The discovery in 1974 changed archaeology forever. Farmers digging a well struck clay, unaware of the vast city beneath their feet. Piece by piece, statues emerged, each trench revealing more. What began as fragments turned into one of the largest archaeological finds in history. Even now, only a fraction of the complex has been uncovered. The fields still hide secrets. Do you imagine how those farmers felt? One moment digging dry soil, the next uncovering a clay face staring back. That is the kind of moment that makes history feel sudden. For centuries, the tomb had slept, and with one stroke of a shovel, it breathed again. The Terracotta Army shows us the extremes of human ambition. A single man demanded a vision so vast that thousands labored to fulfill it. They shaped soldiers, horses, chariots, weapons, plazas, rivers of mercury, all for a man who feared being forgotten. And now, 2,000 years later, we speak his name. his fear may have been answered. When we look beyond the tomb and the army of clay, we see the living empire that Qin Shi Huang shaped during his reign. His obsession with order did not end at the walls of his palace, it stretched into the daily life of millions. To him, unification meant more than victory in war. It meant sculpting a society where every detail was standardized. He ordered that written characters be unified. Before his rule, each state wrote differently, with styles and symbols that confused outsiders. Under Qin, scribes adopted one script across the empire. This may sound dull compared to armies of clay, but writing is power. A unified script meant laws could be understood everywhere, taxes recorded consistently, orders read without confusion. Have you ever tried to read someone's messy handwriting and felt lost? Imagine that frustration multiplied across kingdoms. Qin removed it with one decree. Weights and measures followed the same path. Markets across China had used local systems, each with different scales and standards. Under Qin, merchants weighed grain with the same measures whether in the east or the west. Axle widths of carts were standardized so wagons fit perfectly into the ruts of new imperial roads. It sounds almost obsessive, yet it created efficiency. Do you not find it striking how something as small as wagon ruts can reveal the hand of empire? Every wheel turning in rhythm across a continent. He ordered great roads built, straight as arrows across mountains and plains. Couriers raced along them with messages. Armies marched with speed never seen before. The empire grew smaller in time, if not in space, because distance shrank when roads connected. Imagine walking for weeks through rough land. Then, suddenly traveling smooth stone paths cut directly through. That was the gift and the burden of Qin. These roads tied into another massive project, the linking of walls along the northern frontier. Earlier states had each built barriers to hold back raiders from the steppe. Qin demanded they be connected, repaired, extended. This became the foundation of what we now call the Great Wall. Not the stone ramparts tourists walk today, but long earthen ramparts stretching like scars across hills. Soldiers guarded them. Peasants labored to maintain them. Criminals were forced to build them. It was both defense and punishment. Do you not feel the pattern here? Qin built order with both vision and cruelty. The same hands that carried clay for statues carried stone for walls. The same empire that promised security demanded endless labor. It is a paradox we see again and again in history. Great achievements rise from great burdens. Inside the empire, life for ordinary people shifted under his reforms. Farmers owed grain to the state. Artisans worked under strict supervision. Nobles who resisted were stripped of land. The emperor concentrated power so tightly that no one could challenge him. Some praised him for ending centuries of chaos. Others cursed him for tyranny. Perhaps both feelings were true at once. His legal system was harsh. Crimes were punished severely, often with execution or forced labor. Families could be punished together for the crimes of one member. Loyalty was demanded without hesitation. To Qin, mercy risked disorder. Have you ever played a game where one mistake costs everything, and wondered if the rules were too strict? For Qin, that was governance. And yet, despite fear, many citizens must have felt pride too. For the first time, China was unified under one ruler. one script, one law. Roads stretched across lands that had once been broken by war. Trade flourished under stability. Farmers may have labored heavily, but they planted in peace. Do you not think some must have looked at the roads, the canals, the walls, and felt awe at what they were part of? The Terracotta Army reflects this duality, each soldier unique, yet arranged in strict order, individual faces, but collective discipline. It is a clay mirror of the empire itself, people shaped into order, yet each carrying their own silent expression. Qin's ambitions extended beyond politics. He sought to command the heavens themselves. Court astrologers advised him. Rituals honored ancestors in cosmic order. Temples rose to connect earth and sky. The emperor saw himself as the axis of the world, the pivot between heaven and humanity. His tomb with its rivers of mercury mirrored the world itself, a miniature universe built underground. Do you not find it humbling that even in death he demanded to hold the cosmos within reach? Legends tell us he sent expeditions in search of immortals on distant islands. Alchemists promised potions that would extend life. Some claim to have spoken with divine beings who guided them to secret herbs. Qin ordered fleets to sail into the eastern seas, searching for lands where death might be defeated. None returned with eternal life. Yet the emperor kept seeking. It is both tragic and strangely familiar. Have you ever chased something knowing it might be impossible, but still unable to stop yourself? That was Qin with immortality. The irony is that his empire, so carefully unified, did not last long after his death. Within a few years, rebellion broke out. The burden of forced labor, harsh laws, and heavy taxes sparked uprisings. The Qin dynasty collapsed within 15 years of its founding, from eternity to ashes in a single generation. And yet, his influence never vanished. Later dynasties adopted his standards, his script, his idea of centralized authority. The Qin dynasty may have been short, but the structure it created lasted 2,000 years. The Terracotta Army remains as stone proof of his vision, silent soldiers still standing where he placed them. Imagine walking along the edge of Pit 1 today. Rows of soldiers stretch before you, endless faces staring forward, each one carved by hands long gone, each one standing guard for a man who feared death. Tourists shuffle quietly, whispers filling the hall. Some stare in awe, others take photos. But everyone feels the same weight, the presence of thousands who do not move. Do you not think it strange that clay can hold such power? That something lifeless can radiate authority? Perhaps it is not the clay itself, but the story it carries. Qin Shi Huang remains alive in those statues, his will pressed into every feature. Even silence becomes voice. Archaeologists continue to study the site. New pits reveal musicians, acrobats, even officials, suggesting the emperor wanted more than soldiers in his afterlife. An entire society buried underground, ready to serve. It was not just war he prepared for, but culture, ritual, and governance. A complete empire in miniature. Have you ever packed too much for a short trip, fearing you might need everything? Qin packed an entire country for his journey into death. The soil above still hides chambers unexplored. the central tomb sealed, its contents guessed but unseen. Instruments can detect mercury concentrations. Radar shows outlines, but the heart remains untouched, waiting for technology, waiting for permission. The unopened tomb of Qin Shi Huang remains one of the greatest archaeological mysteries in the world. While the clay soldiers stand revealed in their thousands, the emperor himself still lies sealed beneath a great mound of earth. Legends swirl around what waits inside. Ancient texts speak of rivers of mercury flowing through tunnels, of stars painted on ceilings, of palaces filled with treasure. The soil above the mound does indeed show abnormally high mercury levels, giving weight to the stories. It is a chamber at once real and mythical. Imagine the temptation of opening it. Inside could rest untouched artifacts 2,000 years old. The chance to see ancient engineering on a scale beyond belief. Yet archaeologists hold back. They know excavation risks destroying fragile materials. When the soldiers were uncovered, their painted surfaces flaked away within minutes as air touched them. Imagine opening the central tomb too soon and watching colors, fabrics, even paper vanish before your eyes. It is not fear that holds us back, but patience. Do you not think patience itself becomes part of the story? We live in a world eager to open, to reveal, to expose. But here we wait. A silence chosen to preserve silence. There is irony in that, and perhaps dignity too. The mound itself rises more than 50 meters high, shaped like a pyramid of earth. Beneath it lies not just one chamber, but an entire underground palace. Reports from ancient historians describe officials entombed alive, craftsmen sealed inside so they could never reveal the secrets of construction. Whether this is truth or exaggeration, the scale of labor remains staggering. 700,000 workers are said to have been forced into service. For decades they built the emperor's dream, and for centuries afterward it lay untouched. Pause and think about the human cost. Each clay soldier required hands to mold, paint, and fire. Each block of earth moved required sweat and strength. Lives ended in service to one man's fear of death. And yet those lives built something that endures far longer than their names. It raises the question, do you measure greatness by survival or by kindness? Qin Shi Huang's cruelty is undeniable, but so is his immortality. Visitors who stand among the Terracotta Army often describe the same feeling, a weight in the air, not heavy like sorrow, but heavy like presence. Row upon row of soldiers stare forward, never blinking, never resting, each one unique, yet part of something larger. It is the paradox of individuality within control. Have you ever stood in a crowded train station and seen faces all different, yet all moving together with the same rhythm? That is what the army feels like. The soldiers were not buried randomly. Pit 1 alone covers more than 14,000 square meters. Columns of infantry stand arranged in perfect formation. Pit 2 includes cavalry and archers, each unit placed with care. Pit 3 seems to represent command headquarters, with officers and a chariot. It is not art for art's sake. It is military order frozen in clay. A general could almost walk into the pit and begin issuing orders. Weapons once gave these soldiers real danger. Bronze swords sharpened to lethal edges, spears with gleaming tips, crossbows prepared to fire. Many were coated with protective chemicals that kept them sharp for millennia. Archaeologists handling them were shocked at their preservation. Imagine lifting a sword from soil after 2,000 years and finding it still able to cut. It blurs the line between artifact and weapon. Do you not feel a strange chill at that thought? These soldiers were not meant only to stand as symbols. They were equipped as if ready to fight. The emperor believed he might need them in death as much as he did in life. He carried paranoia even into eternity. The artisans who crafted this army left subtle marks behind. Some stamped their names into clay, perhaps to ensure accountability. Others repeated certain facial features, suggesting workshops with particular styles. These signatures remind us that behind the vision of one emperor stood thousands of anonymous workers. Their fingerprints are literally pressed into the clay. Next time you press your finger into soft dough, remember that someone did the same with clay 2 millennia ago, and we still see it today. Legends grew around the site even before its discovery. Locals long whispered of strange ground, where digging too deep caused sickness. Perhaps the mercury leaking upward caused real harm. Perhaps it was only rumor, but mystery often protects secrets. The emperor's tomb resisted both time and curiosity. Until 1974, when farmers digging a well uncovered the first soldier's head. Imagine their shock. They were not trained archaeologists, just men seeking water. One moment, dry earth filled their shovels. The next, a clay face stared back. From that day, the world's understanding of ancient China shifted. A story long buried stepped into light. Today, vast hangars cover the pits. Tourists shuffle quietly. Cameras clicking, voices hushed. Guides speak softly, explaining ranks and formations. Yet no photograph captures the weight of presence. Standing among 8,000 silent figures, you feel part of something beyond comprehension. Rows stretch until your eyes blur. Faces stare until you wonder if one might move. Do you not think silence itself becomes a character here? The soldiers do not shout. They do not march. They do not fight. They only wait. Waiting has power when it lasts this long. The emperor himself is still waiting too, his tomb sealed, his body untouched. Some fear curses, some fear mercury, some fear disappointment. But perhaps the greatest fear is knowledge. Once opened, mystery ends, and sometimes mystery holds more wonder than truth. Beyond archaeology, the Terracotta Army inspires art, literature, and imagination across the world. Films portray them rising to life. Novels imagine their whispers. Children learn of them in school and dream of soldiers who never die. They live not only in soil, but in our minds. That is a kind of immortality Qin Shi Huang never imagined, yet achieved. And still, the army is not complete. Excavations continue, each year uncovering fragments of more figures. Some lie shattered by time and collapse. Archaeologists piece them together slowly, like puzzles of stone and clay. Each recovered soldier adds to the ranks. The army grows not by creation now, but by revelation. Have you ever rebuilt something broken, piecing together shards of a vase or toy? Imagine that multiplied by thousands. That is the task facing those who restore the Terracotta Army. Patient hands reassemble history piece by piece. The work itself becomes a tribute to the laborers who first created them. The mystery of the unopened tomb lingers at the heart of it all. Some scientists propose using advanced scanners. Others suggest waiting until preservation technology advances. Debate continues. For now, the emperor remains untouched, his secret world hidden beneath the mound. Rivers of mercury may still flow in darkness. Stars may still glitter across ceilings unseen for 2,000 years. Do you not feel the tension between curiosity and restraint? We ache to know, yet we also fear to lose what we cannot replace. Perhaps the emperor wins after all. His secrets remain his alone. The death of Qin Shi Huang was both the end of a man and the unraveling of a dynasty. For all his ambition, his empire could not hold together without his iron hand. He had spent his life conquering, unifying, controlling every detail. Yet in death, even his mighty will could not command loyalty across generations. The dynasty he founded collapsed in less than 2 decades. Picture the moment of his death. He was on a tour of his empire, traveling far from the capital. His health had grown weak, his body poisoned slowly by the mercury and elixirs he believed would grant immortality. When he died, his attendants panicked. They feared rebellion if the news spread before reaching the capital. So they hid his death. The carriage was filled with fish to mask the smell. His body rode home in secret. Do you not find that both tragic and ironic? A man who tried to control everything, carried home in deception. His eldest son was manipulated into succession. Powerful officials forged documents, tricked him into believing his father's wishes had named him heir, but he lacked the strength of his father. Rebellion spread quickly. Peasants and nobles alike rose against the heavy burdens of forced labor and strict laws. The Qin dynasty, mighty enough to conquer China, fell almost overnight once fear weakened. Have you ever seen a tower of blocks topple when one piece is removed? The Qin dynasty was such a tower. Its strength depended entirely on one man. Without him, the structure swayed and collapsed. Yet, despite its short life, the Qin dynasty left a mark that outlasted all others. The standardized script continued. The roads remained. The concept of centralized rule became the model for later dynasties. Qin Shi Huang's empire died, but his vision lived on. The Terracotta Army reflects this strange balance. It is a monument to his paranoia and cruelty, but also to his genius for order. Each clay soldier whispers both pride and fear. To stand among them is to see both the glory and the burden of his reign. Do you not think history often works this way? Legacies mixed, neither entirely noble nor entirely dark. The Han dynasty rose from the ashes of Qin. They softened laws, allowed Confucian ideals to flourish, encouraged learning. Yet they kept the structure Qin had built. It was as if they took the skeleton of his empire and clothed it with gentler flesh. The Terracotta Army became less a warning and more a curiosity, eventually forgotten beneath soil. Meanwhile, legends about Qin Shi Huang grew. Some saw him as a tyrant who burned books and buried scholars. Others remembered him as the unifier who gave China one script and one law. Both images carried truth. He was feared and admired at once. The clay army itself mirrors this duality, awe-inspiring in scale, unsettling in purpose. Imagine being a villager centuries later, walking farmland unaware of the silent army beneath your feet. Generations plowed fields above heads of soldiers. Life went on while 8,000 warriors waited patiently below. Do you not find that thought eerie, that history can sleep so close to the surface and remain unseen? The Terracotta Army was not unique in concept. Other rulers across the world buried servants and treasures with them. Pharaohs of Egypt filled tombs with gold and boats. Kings of Mesopotamia carried weapons into graves. Yet Qin's army is unmatched in scale. No other ruler demanded thousands of life-sized replicas to guard him. It is ambition beyond reason. The artistry also reveals innovation. Each soldier's body was assembled from standard molds for legs, torsos, and arms. But heads were shaped individually. This allowed mass production with variation. Have you ever noticed how bakeries make cookies with the same base dough but decorate each differently? The Terracotta Army followed a similar principle. Uniform structure, unique details. Weapons recovered show remarkable preservation. Crossbow triggers of bronze still work. Sword edges still sharp. Some scientists believe they were coated with protective chromium, though debates continue. Whether intentional or accidental, the result is stunning. Imagine pulling a sword from the ground after 2 millennia and finding its edge gleaming. That is not just artifact, it is function preserved. Tourists today walk through the vast pits covered by modern hangars. The scale overwhelms first-time visitors. Soldiers stretch into the distance, each face detailed, each stance steady. Some statues stand broken, still being pieced together. Archaeologists continue restoration like endless puzzle makers. The work is slow, but each year new soldiers rise again. Do you not think patience itself becomes part of archaeology? Every brush of dust, every shard restored, is a quiet echo of the labor that built them in the first place. The emperor demanded decades of work in his life. Now the world repays with centuries of study. Beyond archaeology, the Terracotta Army has become a symbol of China itself. It represents the vastness of its history, the power of its rulers, the depth of its culture. Images of the soldiers travel the world in exhibitions. Crowds line up to see faces that stared forward for 2,000 years. Even without moving, they continue to march across the globe. The emperor himself would likely approve. His obsession with being remembered finds fulfillment. The world speaks his name, studies his tomb, marvels at his army. Perhaps this is the immortality he truly achieved, not eternal breath, but eternal memory. Have you ever realized that being remembered may outlast any potion or elixir? Qin Shi Huang achieved that without knowing. Legends of his tomb persist. Some believe hidden traps wait inside, crossbows rigged to fire at intruders. poisonous gases sealed in chambers. Whether real or imagined, they add to the aura of mystery. The mound rises quietly in Xi'an, yet beneath it may lie dangers untouched for millennia. It is both grave and fortress. The soldiers themselves remain silent about what lies deeper. They stand at the threshold, guardians of secrets. Their faces reveal nothing. Their stances do not shift. Yet their very presence tells us the emperor feared intrusion. Even in death, he prepared for enemies. And so, when you stand among them, you are not only visiting an archaeological site, you are stepping into the emperor's final plan. A plan that demanded soldiers to stand watch forever. A plan that still holds today. Do you not feel the echo of his will still pulsing through clay? When we return again to the great mound where Qin Shi Huang still rests, the weight of mystery feels almost heavier than the soldiers themselves. The army has been revealed, the pits opened, the soldiers restored one by one, but the central tomb remains sealed, the emperor still buried beneath soil and legend. 2,000 years of silence surround him. Ancient records tell us of a burial like no other. Palaces built underground, chambers mapped like a miniature empire, a ceiling painted to mirror the constellations, so that stars shone eternally above his resting place, channels filled with flowing mercury, rivers and seas recreated in liquid metal. At the center lay the emperor himself, guarded by traps, sealed in bronze. It sounds like myth, yet traces of mercury still rise in the soil, suggesting truth buried with the story. Do you not feel the strange tension between certainty and uncertainty? We know enough to believe, but not enough to see. The door remains closed, and curiosity must wait. Some things in history demand patience longer than our lives. The question of opening the tomb divides scholars. Some say technology is not ready. Paint and fabrics could crumble the instant air touches them. Traps may still fire. Mercury may still poison. Others argue the secrets inside could change our knowledge forever. Imagine maps of ancient China painted in detail. Texts preserved that explain laws or rituals. Perhaps inventions lost to time remain hidden. It is the greatest unopened archive on Earth. And yet, no hand dares to lift the seal. Have you ever stared at a wrapped gift, knowing it might hold something precious, but fearing you might ruin it if you tear too soon? That is the world's dilemma with Qin Shi Huang's tomb. Legends describe hidden dangers waiting for intruders, crossbows rigged to fire automatically, chambers filled with deadly gases, curses spoken through rumor and myth. Whether these defenses still exist, we do not know. But the fear itself adds to the mystery. The emperor wanted his rest undisturbed, and even now, his will is obeyed. The mercury rivers remain one of the most fascinating details. In ancient China, mercury symbolized immortality, purity, cosmic energy. Alchemists brewed elixirs from it, promising eternal life. Ironically, it poisoned those who consumed it. Qin Shi Huang himself may have died from mercury pills he believed would save him, and yet he filled his tomb with rivers of it, as though death itself could be fooled by symbols. Do you not find that tragic and strangely human? To place faith in the very poison that kills. Modern scientists test the soil above the mound. Readings show mercury levels far higher than normal, Something beneath still leaks slowly upward. Whether it is a great flowing river or pools sealed in chambers, we do not know. But the evidence is enough to keep the legends alive. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to stand in that chamber if it were ever opened. The air heavy with metal, the ground glistening with pools of silver liquid, walls painted with images unseen for thousands of years, a ceiling glowing with stars crafted in gems. At the center, the emperor himself lying in state. It would be a vision beyond archaeology, closer to dream than reality. But for now, that dream remains sealed. The clay soldiers guard the perimeter. The mound holds its silence. Perhaps the emperor wins his final battle by denying us his secrets. Meanwhile, the army itself continues to reveal smaller mysteries. Archaeologists uncover musicians among the statues, dancers, even acrobats. The emperor wanted not only soldiers but entertainers in his afterlife. His underground world was to be complete. A society in miniature, warriors for defense, officials for order, musicians for joy. Do you not think that shows the depth of his obsession? He could not imagine death as emptiness. It had to be another court, another empire, another stage for power. The discovery of these figures changes how we view the site. It is not merely military. It is cultural, spiritual, symbolic. It shows an emperor who demanded eternity to mirror life. Every need, every role, every sound reproduced in clay. Imagine believing so strongly in control that even laughter had to be sculpted to follow you into death. That was Qin Shi Huang. The artisans who built this world carried enormous pressure. Mistakes could mean punishment. Records suggest some were buried with the tomb to protect secrets. Others left fingerprints in clay, silent signatures pressed forever. Their lives ended in service, yet their work endures longer than any emperor of later dynasties. Do you not feel the irony? The nameless workers live on through their art, while the emperor himself still lies unseen. The Terracotta Army continues to astonish the modern world because of scale. 8,000 soldiers already uncovered, and many more may remain buried. Horses, chariots, armor, weapons. It is not only the size, but the detail that amazes. Each face different, each stance natural. It feels less like mass production and more like a gathering of individuals. Tourists walk through the pits under massive roofs. They whisper in awe, as though in a temple. The silence of the soldiers commands respect. Cameras click, but the soldiers do not notice. They remain as steady as the day they were fired in kilns. Do you not think it strange that clay has more patience than flesh? Human bodies crumble, yet these statues endure. The site also raises questions of preservation. Exposure damages paint. Air erodes surfaces. Archaeologists now excavate carefully, often leaving soldiers buried until better methods arise. Sometimes the best protection is stillness. History must sleep longer to survive. It is a strange thought, but wise. Legends continue to color the tomb. Stories say the emperor's spirit still walks among his soldiers. Others whisper that curses fall on those who disturb him. Such tales may be superstition, but they reflect a truth. Qin Shi Huang's presence still dominates 2,000 years after his death. His fear of being forgotten has not been fulfilled. And what of his empire? Though the Qin dynasty fell swiftly, later dynasties built on his foundation. The Han continued his roads, his script, his legal structure, the very name of China in Chinese. Zhongguo traces roots to the vision he united. He failed in life to live forever, yet in memory he succeeded. Do you not think that is a lesson for all rulers? Power ends, bodies fail, dynasties collapse, but ideas endure when they shape those who follow. Qin Shi Huang's ideas of centralization, uniformity, and authority lasted centuries beyond his reign. Even his flaws teach us. Fear and cruelty cannot hold forever, but structure and vision can. As you think of him, imagine again the tomb mound. The grass grows quiet over it. Winds sweep across fields. Farmers once plowed here unaware. Now tourists gaze from paths nearby, but the heart remains untouched. It is a silence deeper than any museum can hold. The Terracotta Army does not only belong to the past, it continues to shape the present. When it was uncovered in 1974, it changed how the world saw China's history. Until then, the Qin dynasty was remembered mostly in texts, praised for unification, criticized for cruelty. But now, the silent faces of thousands of soldiers stood as physical proof. A buried world had risen again. Tourists began arriving almost immediately. What was once farmland became one of the most visited archaeological sites on Earth. Vast hangars rose above the pits to protect the soldiers from weather. Walkways allowed visitors to look down on endless rows of clay faces. Each year, millions pass through, whispering, taking photos, marveling at the vision of a man who refused to face death alone. Do you not think it strange how the emperor's paranoia now brings wonder instead of fear? He buried an army to defend himself, but in doing so created one of humanity's greatest treasures. His attempt to control eternity ended up gifting it to the world. The soldiers themselves have become ambassadors. Exhibitions travel to other countries, allowing people thousands of miles away to stand face to face with warriors of ancient China. Museums fill with crowds eager to see them. Some stand silently in awe. Others lean close to study details of armor and faces. The soldiers still perform their duty, not as warriors, but as messengers. Imagine one soldier traveling across oceans, standing in a foreign museum hall. Lights shine above him. Glass protects him. Visitors circle slowly. He was made to guard an emperor in silence, yet now he guards history itself. Do you not feel that twist of fate? Even in clay, destiny changes shape. The global fascination lies partly in scale. Few other finds reveal thousands of life-sized figures. Most tombs give us gold, jewels, pottery. Qin Shi Huang gave us an entire army. It speaks to ambition far beyond survival. It speaks to obsession, and obsession, however unsettling, captures attention. The details of the soldiers also feed the fascination. Each hairstyle tied differently, each face carved distinct. Scholars debate whether they represent real individuals or imagined types. Some believe generals and officers were modeled after living people. Others think artisans created variety simply to avoid monotony. Whatever the truth, the result is individuality inside uniformity. Thousands of men, yet no two the same. Have you ever stood in a crowd and realized every face carries its own story? That is what the army feels like. A frozen crowd of lives, each silent yet unique. It is overwhelming, yet strangely comforting. The army also sparks endless questions. How many more figures remain buried? What lies in unopened pits? How far do the tunnels stretch? Every excavation adds to mystery rather than ending it. We learn more, but the hole grows larger. It is like opening a box only to find more boxes inside. Beyond archaeology, the Terracotta Army has entered culture and imagination. Films depict soldiers rising to life. Novels imagine their secrets. Children's books tell of their discovery. They have become icons, symbols not only of China, but of endurance itself. To see them is to see survival across millennia. Do you not think that is what humans seek in history? A reminder that something can last. Our own lives are short, yet clay faces watch across centuries. We lean on them to feel time soften. The discovery also reshaped local life. The village where farmers once dug wells became a global destination. Tourism transformed the region, bringing wealth but also change. Families who once farmed fields now work in museums and shops. The emperor's soldiers still command lives. Have you ever noticed how history often bends the present quietly? An emperor who demanded obedience 2,000 years ago still shapes careers today. Guides speak his name daily. Vendors sell his image on souvenirs. He commands still, though softly. The Terracotta Army also forces reflection on labor and memory. We admire the soldiers, yet rarely think of the hands that shape them. Thousands of artisans labored without glory. They molded clay, carved features, painted armor. Their names mostly lost, yet their fingerprints remain in clay. They achieved a kind of immortality too, though unintended. Do you not feel the quiet justice in that? The emperor sought immortality by command. The workers gained it by touch. Both endure side by side. Modern technology continues to probe the site. Ground-penetrating radar reveals outlines of chambers. Chemical analysis measures mercury in soil. Drones scan the mound from above. Yet still we hold back from the central tomb. It waits like a sealed book. Some pages opened, others still unread. Imagine the day it is finally opened. Cameras broadcasting, scientists stepping carefully into darkness, lights revealing walls painted with stars, floors flowing with mercury, objects preserved beyond imagination. The world would pause in awe, but with awe would come loss. The mystery would be gone. Do you not wonder if that day should come at all? Meanwhile, the soldiers stand patient. Their silence teaches us patience too. They do not hurry. They do not age visibly. They remind us that some stories take longer to tell. 2,000 years is long, yet their watch continues. The emperor himself remains both admired and despised. His cruelty unforgettable, his vision undeniable. He unified China but broke countless lives to do so. He burned books but created a script still used today. He buried scholars but built roads that connected generations. History remembers him with both fear and awe. The soldiers carry this contradiction. They are magnificent, yet born of tyranny. They inspire wonder, yet whisper of suffering. That tension gives them power. Do you not think perfection is less moving than imperfection? The flaws make the wonder human. Visitors often describe the same experience. They walk into the hall, see rows of soldiers stretching beyond sight, and fall into silence. Even children hush. Something about thousands of faces staring forward commands respect. It is not fear. Not exactly. It is recognition. Recognition that these figures hold meaning greater than themselves. And so the Terracotta Army lives on, not in movement, but in stillness, not in war, but in memory. They were made to guard an emperor who feared death. Now they guard history, culture, and imagination. They stand eternal, silent soldiers who never leave their posts. The memory of Qin Shi Huang lived on long after the fall of his dynasty. Later rulers studied his methods carefully. Some despised him for cruelty. Others admired him for strength. But none could ignore him. He had carved himself into the story of China. His tomb and his army ensured that even silence could not erase him. The Han dynasty that followed softened the harsh edges of his laws. They promoted learning, welcomed scholars, revived Confucian thought. Yet they kept the structure he had built, the unified script, the roads, the idea of central authority. In a sense, the Han ruled with Qin's skeleton dressed in gentler flesh. Have you ever seen someone renovate a house, stripping away harsh designs but keeping the foundation? That is what the Han did with Qin's empire. But the image of Qin Shi Huang remained split. Some called him the tyrant who buried scholars alive. Others hailed him as the unifier who gave the land order after centuries of chaos. The Terracotta Army stands in this same paradox. It is breathtaking, but also chilling. Rows of clay soldiers that amaze us, yet whisper of forced labor and suffering. Do you not feel that history rarely gives us heroes without shadows? Greatness and cruelty often walk hand in hand. As centuries passed, legends grew around his tomb. Stories told of deadly traps, rivers of mercury, spirits guarding chambers. Poets imagined the emperor wandering in death, still restless. Writers used him as symbol of power unchecked. Children heard tales of his obsession with immortality and laughed at the irony of his early death. Humor has a way of softening fear. Have you ever noticed how we joke about what unsettles us most? Qin's legend followed that path, yet fascination always returned. Travelers spoke of the great mound near Xi'an, wondering what lay beneath. Farmers tilled soil above, unaware of silent soldiers waiting below. Dynasties rose and fell, yet the emperor's army endured its watch. Centuries blurred, but clay does not forget. The discovery in modern times reignited old legends with fresh wonder. Scholars suddenly saw with their own eyes what texts had hinted: a vast army underground, preserved in detail beyond expectation. The Terracotta Army confirmed that Qin Shi Huang's ambitions had not been exaggerated. If anything, the reality exceeded myth. Have you ever found an old story you doubted only to learn it was true, and felt both surprise and humility? That was the world's reaction. The soldiers also reveal glimpses of daily life in Qin's empire. Their armor shows how infantry dressed. Their weapons reveal military technology. Crossbow triggers display engineering skill ahead of their time. Horses sculpted with care reflect the importance of cavalry. Each clay figure is both soldier and source, a library without words. Do you not think it remarkable that silence can speak through detail? Clay faces carry information that scrolls alone cannot. Even hairstyles tell stories. Top knots of different shapes show ranks. Boots shaped carefully reveal practical needs. The smallest details become records. Archaeologists read them like pages. Imagine learning about an entire army from clay alone. It is like reconstructing music from instruments without hearing the sound. Yet somehow the tune still plays. The Terracotta Army also embodies China's relationship with eternity. Dynasties came and went, but the idea of continuity persisted. Emperors saw themselves not only as rulers of their time, but as links in an endless chain. Qin Shi Huang's demand for soldiers in death reflects this vision. Life was not enough. He sought to extend his role beyond death. To him, empire did not end with breath. Do you not see how this differs from many other ancient rulers? Pharaohs filled tombs with treasures. Mesopotamian kings carried symbols. Qin carried entire armies. His vision was not wealth in afterlife, but order in afterlife. A bureaucracy of eternity. It is both absurd and brilliant. As centuries passed, the mound became ordinary landscape. Farmers grew crops, children played, animals grazed. None suspected the army below. The earth covered ambition with grass and silence. But even in hiding, the army held power, waiting, always waiting. Imagine the moment when the first soldier's head emerged in 1974. Clay eyes staring after 2,000 years of darkness. Soil crumbling away from a face carved by hands long gone. That single discovery led to one of the greatest archaeological projects in history. From a well dug in thirst came rivers of knowledge. Do you not find it poetic that water was sought but soldiers were found? A well for life uncovered an army of death. Today, the Terracotta Army belongs to the world as much as to China. It is studied in classrooms across continents. It is displayed in exhibitions that travel to distant cities. Millions who will never visit Xi'an still know the clay soldiers by image. They march across textbooks, documentaries, and imaginations. Qin Shi Huang achieved immortality not through mercury, but through memory. And yet mystery still shields him. His body remains sealed, his tomb unopened. The soldiers guard but do not reveal. We know much, yet so much more waits in darkness. Sometimes I wonder if the emperor smiles beneath earth. his final plans still working, secrets still his. Do you not feel the weight of that secrecy? The mound itself seems to hum with silence. People walk paths nearby, but beneath lies a world unseen. It is a reminder that history holds more than we will ever uncover. We walk on surfaces while oceans of time roll below. Even now, archaeologists uncover fragments of new figures. Musicians with clay instruments, dancers frozen mid-step, officials standing stern. The underground city was more than military. It was society reborn in clay. Qin wanted not only soldiers, but an entire court to follow him. Warriors, entertainers, servants, animals. A whole empire sealed underground. Imagine the sound if it were alive. Horses snorting, soldiers chanting, flutes playing, drums beating. The tomb would be less a grave and more a city where night never ended, where work never ceased. Eternal duty, eternal performance, eternal empire. And so, the Terracotta Army continues to teach us. It shows ambition without limit, fear without rest, creativity without equal. It shows the paradox of power. Qin Shi Huang ruled for years. His dynasty lasted briefly, yet his tomb outlives them all. Do you not think that is the greatest irony? The empire of clay survived longer than the empire of flesh. In the present age, the Terracotta Army has become more than an archaeological site. It is a bridge between China's ancient power and its modern identity. For centuries, the army slept unseen, but now it stands as a national treasure and a global wonder. Every soldier tells a story, not only of the emperor who commanded them, but of the culture that shaped them. China presents the Terracotta Army with pride. Museums near Xi'an display the soldiers under vast roofs, carefully arranged in restored formations. Guides lead visitors through the pits, describing weapons, armor, and ranks. Tourists lean over railings to take photos, trying to capture the endless rows of silent faces. But no camera truly conveys the feeling of being surrounded by thousands of clay men who stare forward with unblinking calm. Do you not think the stillness itself is the attraction? They do not move. They do not speak. Yet their silence fills the hall more than noise ever could. It is the weight of presence. The emperor planned for eternity. And in this way, he succeeded. Internationally, the Terracotta Army has become China's ambassador of antiquity. Exhibitions travel abroad. Carefully chosen soldiers sent across oceans. Crowds in foreign capitals gather to see them. Some arrive out of curiosity, others from fascination with ancient China. Children gaze at clay faces taller than themselves, whispering that they look almost alive. The soldiers who never marched in life now march across continents and culture. Imagine a warrior carved in clay 2,000 years ago, standing today in a glass case in London or New York. Once he was made to guard an emperor. Now he guards history. His purpose has shifted. yet he still stands steady. Do you not feel the quiet poetry in that? The emperor built them for fear of death, but they live on by serving knowledge. The site also fuels research into ancient technology. The bronze weapons show evidence of advanced casting. Some scholars suggest chemical treatments preserved them from corrosion. Whether intentional or accidental, the preservation astonishes. Scientists study pigments still clinging to armor, hoping to recreate original colors. Engineers examine kiln remains to understand firing methods. The soldiers are not only art, they are laboratories. Have you ever taken apart a toy just to see how it was built? Archaeologists do the same with fragments of clay, learning the hands and minds behind them. The soldiers become textbooks of technology. The Terracotta Army also highlights the paradox of labor and memory. We marvel at the emperor's vision, yet rarely pause for the thousands who shaped clay with their hands. Many were likely prisoners, artisans forced into endless work. Some may have died during construction, and yet their fingerprints remain in clay, pressed forever. The emperor demanded immortality for himself, but gave it also to those he ruled. Do you not think that is history's quiet justice? Greatness leaves space for forgotten hands to be remembered too. Modern China invests heavily in preserving the site. Climate controls protect the pits. Careful excavations continue slowly. Scientists develop new methods to keep pigments from fading. International teams collaborate with Chinese experts. It is one of the most studied sites on Earth, yet it still holds more secrets than answers. The mound above the unopened tomb remains untouched. The emperor still sleeps unseen. Tourism transforms the region. Hotels, restaurants, and markets thrive near Xi'an. Locals who once farmed fields now work as guides and vendors. The discovery that began with farmers digging a well now sustains thousands of livelihoods. Do you not find it remarkable how the emperor still commands lives after 2,000 years? Not through fear this time, but through curiosity. His legacy shifts shape again. The Terracotta Army also stirs reflection on power and mortality. Qin Shi Huang built it from fear of death, yet death still came. His dynasty collapsed. Only the clay endured. Visitors stand among soldiers and realize the emperor failed in life, but triumphed in memory. His fear of being forgotten was answered. Have you ever chased one goal and found success in another instead? That is the emperor's story. In classrooms, the Terracotta Army becomes a lesson in ambition. Teachers show images of endless soldiers, explaining the scale of labor, the control of empire. Students learn that history is not only words in books, but faces in clay. The soldiers stare at them from across centuries. Do you not think that has more impact than any lecture? Seeing history makes it real. The army also speaks to universal questions. Why do humans seek eternity? Why do we fear being forgotten? Why do rulers demand monuments that outlast them? The soldiers are China's answer, but also humanity's question. Every culture builds symbols, pyramids, temples, statues. Qin Shi Huang built men, thousands of them. Imagine standing at night in the hall above Pit 1. The lights dim, The tourists gone, rows of soldiers stretch into darkness, silence thicker than air. You feel as if you stand among them, another figure added to their number. Do you not think moments like that remind us why history matters? It pulls us into time itself. The Terracotta Army continues to inspire imagination beyond scholarship. Artists paint them, filmmakers animate them, writers weave them into fantasy. Some imagine the soldiers rising to life, marching again. Others see them as metaphors of control and individuality. They live as symbols as much as artifacts. And so the global fascination grows. Each year more visitors arrive. Each year more soldiers are restored. The emperor's dream expands into the modern world. He wanted an army to guard him in death. Instead, he gained an army that carries his memory into eternity. Do you not find the irony satisfying? He tried to control everything, yet what endures cannot be controlled. It is shared with the world. The soldiers still hold secrets too. Fragments of armor remain to be pieced together. Broken weapons lie scattered in soil. Painted pigments cling to clay. Each discovery adds another layer to the story. Archaeologists know the work will take generations. The emperor demanded decades in life, and now demands centuries in study. He has his wish, and still, the mound waits. The central tomb untouched. Legends of rivers of mercury remain only in whispers. Perhaps treasures lie inside. Perhaps only silence. But the emperor remains in control of mystery. The greatest secrets are still his. The unopened tomb of Qin Shi Huang remains the silent heart of this entire story. While the clay soldiers have risen into light, the emperor himself still lies in darkness. The mound stands above him, a hill of earth more than 2,000 years old. People walk paths around it. Buses bring tourists to see the pits nearby, yet the center remains untouched. The emperor sleeps while the world waits. Ancient texts give us the only clues to what lies inside. They describe flowing rivers of mercury, great seas mapped in liquid metal. They describe a ceiling covered in pearls and gems, glowing like constellations of the night sky. They describe palaces of bronze, traps set for intruders, and servants sealed alive to guard the emperor in death. Some details may be exaggeration, but many have been confirmed in part. The soil above the mound carries unusually high mercury levels. Radar reveals chambers beneath. Something waits there. Do you not feel the pull of such secrecy? It is like a locked door in the middle of your house, always passed, never opened. You cannot help but wonder, what would we see if the tomb were unsealed? Scientists debate the question endlessly. Some argue that technology is still too weak. Paint would flake away, fabrics would crumble, wooden beams would rot as soon as air touched them. Others argue that we lose more by waiting. Treasures may decay slowly underground. Knowledge may vanish before we dare to look. It is a balance of patience and urgency. Have you ever delayed opening a letter until the moment felt right, only to realize the ink had faded? That is the risk here. The emperor's obsession with immortality gave rise to much of this mystery. He feared death more than any enemy. He searched across his empire for alchemists who promised elixirs. He sent expeditions to mythical islands, searching for herbs and secrets. He swallowed pills laced with mercury, believing poison would grant life. Instead, it shortened his years. Do you not think that is almost comical in its tragedy? To drink death in pursuit of life. And yet, his tomb reflects this obsession in physical form. The rivers of mercury mimic eternal waters. The stars painted on ceilings mimic eternal heavens. The soldiers mimic eternal armies. His entire underground palace was a map of immortality. He built not a grave, but a second empire. The Great Wall stretched across mountains to hold back raiders. The tomb stretched beneath earth to hold back death. Both were walls of a kind. One visible, one hidden. Both demanded endless labor. Both left scars on history. The emperor's paranoia shaped every corner of his reign. He distrusted nobles, so he broke their power. He distrusted scholars, so he burned their books. He distrusted death itself, so he built an army to face it. Some see only tyranny in this. Others see vision, but perhaps both are true. Power and fear were his companions. Do you not think fear itself can drive greatness as much as courage? Fear of death, fear of chaos, fear of being forgotten. Qin Shi Huang turned fear into monuments. Not monuments of beauty alone, but monuments of control. The Terracotta Army embodies this contradiction. It is magnificent to behold, yet unsettling to consider. Thousands of men forced into clay, thousands of workers forced into service, a wonder built from suffering, a legacy born of fear, and yet it endures. Visitors whisper in awe. Archaeologists labor for decades. Children learn his name. He won the immortality he desired, though not as he expected. The unopened tomb deepens this paradox. To leave it sealed is to honor mystery. To open it is to risk loss, but gain knowledge. Humanity stands at the threshold, torn between desire and caution. Have you ever stood at the edge of a lake, wanting to dive but fearing the cold? The mound is such a lake. We circle, we watch, we hesitate. Legends speak of traps inside, crossbows rigged to fire, poisonous gases sealed in jars. Whether such defenses still exist, we do not know. But even the idea shapes how we view the tomb. It feels alive, protective, dangerous. The emperor's hand seems to reach still from below. Meanwhile, the soldiers outside continue their silent watch. They guard chambers unseen. They hold their posts without rest. They remind us every moment that secrets remain. Their stillness is both invitation and warning. Step closer, but not too close. Archaeologists sometimes describe the site as an iceberg. We see only the surface, the pits uncovered, but far more lies buried beneath. Entire chambers untouched, unknown figures still sleeping, perhaps musicians, perhaps servants, perhaps animals. The underground world is larger than we imagine. Do you not feel humbled by that thought? That after decades of excavation, we have only scratched the surface. History is vast, patience eternal. The emperor demanded eternity. and he seems to have it. In the modern world, debates continue over when or if to open the central tomb. Some suggest waiting until technology can preserve everything perfectly. Others argue perfection never comes. There is risk in every choice. The longer we wait, the more mercury may leak, the more fabrics may decay. The sooner we act, the more damage exposure may bring. It is a dilemma without answer. Have you ever faced a decision where both paths carry risk? That is the challenge here. To act is danger. To delay is danger. Perhaps the emperor designed it that way. His tomb remains his final victory. The Terracotta Army itself grows in influence as time passes. It appears in art, in film, in stories told across the world. It has become symbol of both ambition and fragility. Ambition of a ruler who wanted to control eternity. Fragility of human life that ends regardless. Visitors who stand among soldiers feel this contrast deeply. Rows of clay faces stare forward, each silent yet eternal. They make us reflect on our own brevity. Do you not think that is why the site attracts millions? Not only for history, but for perspective. To stand before 8,000 silent men is to feel both small and infinite. Small in life, infinite in memory. The unopened tomb is the final piece of this puzzle. It is the silence within silence. The soldiers speak without words, but the tomb does not speak at all. It waits, as the emperor wished, and perhaps it will wait forever. The Terracotta Army is not only about Qin Shi Huang, it is also about how people remember him across ages. Every dynasty that followed carried his shadow. Some rulers cursed his cruelty, others borrowed his ideas, but none ignored him. His vision of unity lasted longer than his throne. The Han dynasty softened his harsh laws, but they kept his system of central power. The Tang celebrated culture and art, yet still ruled with the authority he had modeled. Even modern China looks back at him with both caution and respect. His army became symbol not only of a man, but of a nation's endurance. Do you not think it remarkable how someone feared in life can be honored in memory? Time shifts reputation as easily as sand shifts dunes. The Terracotta Army also became mirror for China's identity. It reflects ambition, discipline, and the ability to organize on massive scale. It shows art woven into labor, individuality within control. When visitors see the army, they see not only ancient China, but also the roots of modern China. Clay soldiers become more than guardians of a tomb. They become guardians of heritage. Imagine a school group visiting the site. Children walk wide-eyed among rows of soldiers. Guides explain the emperor's dream, the work of artisans, the history of unification. The children listen, but mostly they stare, thousands of faces staring back. Do you not think impressions like this last a lifetime? To see history made solid changes how you see your own place in time. The soldiers also show how myth and reality blur. Legend said the emperor sought immortality, drank mercury elixirs, built rivers of poison. Archaeology confirms part of this. Legends spoke of an underground palace painted with stars. Radar hints at chambers that may match. We live between myth and proof. The Terracotta Army stands at that border. The global fascination with the army adds another layer. For many outside China, The soldiers are their first encounter with Chinese antiquity. They may not know the details of dynasties, but they know the faces of clay men standing in rows. Exhibitions abroad attract crowds who whisper the emperor's name. Qin Shi Huang becomes global through the silence of his army. Do you not find it strange that silence travels farther than words? A clay soldier does not speak, yet he carries history across oceans. He does not move, yet he marches into foreign museums. His quiet presence spreads louder than speeches. Writers and artists use the Terracotta Army as inspiration. Novels imagine them awakening to march again. Films cast them as magical warriors. Painters recreate their faces in endless forms. Even fashion borrows their armor as design. They live not only as history, but as muse. Clay turned to story. At the same time, scholars continue to dig deeper into their meaning. Each pit excavated reveals new roles, not only soldiers, but entertainers, officials, even exotic animals. The emperor wanted an empire underground, not only an army. His paranoia extended beyond war into life itself. He wanted continuity of every detail. Do you not think that shows how he saw death? Not as rest, but as repetition. The soldiers also remind us of labor unseen. 700,000 workers are said to have served in building the tomb. Many died during construction. Many names lost, and yet their hands shaped every detail. We admire the emperor's vision, but it was their sweat that made it real. Their fingerprints remain pressed into clay. Imagine pressing your thumb into wet earth today, and someone seeing it 2,000 years later. That is what they achieved. The contrast between the emperor's will and the worker's hands is stark. One man feared death and demanded eternity. Thousands of others lived short lives to fulfill that fear. And yet both are remembered through the soldiers, one by name, the other by touch. Do you not think history often works this way? The powerful remembered by voice, the ordinary remembered by trace. Tourism today keeps the army alive in another way. Millions travel to Xi'an to see the pits. Hotels and restaurants thrive around the site. Local families who once farmed fields now live by the emperor's legacy. In life, he demanded their ancestors' labor. In death, he sustains their descendants' livelihoods. History has strange circles. Imagine a farmer selling fruit outside the museum gates. Each tourist who buys is part of the emperor's economy still. Qin Shi Huang once fed his empire through control. Now he feeds it through curiosity. Do you not think he would smirk at that? Immortality finds many forms. The Terracotta Army also speaks to deeper questions of human nature. Why do we build monuments? Why do we seek to be remembered? Why do we fight so hard against death? The emperor's answer was soldiers. Others chose pyramids, statues, cathedrals. But the impulse is the same: to resist forgetting. Do you not feel that impulse in yourself at times? To leave a mark, however small. A message written, a photo saved, a story told. The Terracotta Army is simply that impulse magnified to the scale of empire. The unopened tomb intensifies these reflections. It is mystery wrapped in earth. We know it exists. We know it holds wonders. Yet we do not touch. It waits like a final question. The emperor demanded secrets, and he still holds them, until the day the mound is opened. If ever, he remains victorious. And perhaps that is the most unsettling thought, that a man who lived in fear of death still controls us 2,000 years later. He holds our attention, our curiosity, our imagination. His soldiers stand silent, but his silence commands. Do you not think that is power beyond measure? As we walk among the soldiers, we become part of their story. They stare forward, but we stare back. We reflect on mortality, ambition, memory. We learn as much about ourselves as about Qin Shi Huang. Clay is mirror as much as monument. And so the Terracotta Army continues its watch, not just over a tomb, but over our thoughts. They stand unblinking while we wonder. They remain silent while we speak. They endure while we fade. The Terracotta Army has stood for over 2,000 years, yet its silence feels louder than any battle cry. Thousands of soldiers face forward, eyes carved sharp, armor pressed in detail. They were built to guard an emperor who feared death, but they now guard the story of humanity itself. Every visitor who walks among them feels the same weight. It is not fear of clay, nor fear of death, but awe at ambition made solid. One man demanded eternity, and thousands of hands delivered it. Do you not think ambition itself is what lingers most strongly? The clay is only form, but the will behind it is what we truly see. Qin Shi Huang built not just soldiers but symbols. He wanted order, so he made them stand in lines. He wanted loyalty, so he made them face him eternally. He wanted immortality, so he buried them deep. And though his flesh has turned to dust, his soldiers stand still. Imagine him walking among them on the day they were completed. The air heavy with smoke from kilns, the ground trembling under the weight of thousands of clay feet, artisans bowing low, commanders kneeling in respect, the emperor staring over his second army. He must have felt a strange pride, believing he had conquered death itself. Do you not think that moment was his greatest victory? Not war, not conquest, but the illusion of eternity. The unopened tomb beneath the mound deepens the legend. We stand above knowing something vast lies below. Rivers of mercury perhaps still glisten in darkness. Ceilings perhaps still sparkle with gems. Traps perhaps still wait with silent arrows. The emperor lies there in mystery, and the world does not dare disturb him. His control has outlived his dynasty. The clay soldiers outside are all we can touch. They reveal his vision, but also his fear. They reveal his control, but also his weakness. They remind us that power is temporary, but memory is not. Have you ever realized that fear often writes stronger marks than comfort? Qin's fear of death carved an army we still see. The Terracotta Army also forces us to reflect on the nature of monuments. Why do humans build such things? To honor gods, to please rulers, to resist time. But often they outlive their purpose and take new meaning. The emperor wanted them for war in another world. We use them now for wonder in this one. Do you not think history loves to twist intentions? Tourists shuffle through hangars under bright lights. Guides speak. Children stare. Cameras flash against clay faces. Yet the soldiers do not change. They stand with the same patience they had under soil. They do not hurry. They do not complain. They remind us that silence itself is endurance. Workers continue to restore broken figures, some shattered when roofs collapsed centuries ago, others cracked under pressure of soil. Patient hands glue fragments together, rebuilding what was once lost, piece by piece, soldier by soldier. Archaeology becomes mirror of original labor. The emperor demanded decades of work to build them. The modern world answers with centuries of work to restore them. Do you not find that balance poetic? The past commands the present still. We obey with curiosity instead of fear, but we obey nonetheless. The emperor's dream continues through our hands. Legends say the emperor wanted to rule heaven as he ruled earth, that he drank elixirs believing he would live forever, that he ordered fleets to search seas for immortal beings. His body failed, but his tomb succeeded. He did not conquer death, but he conquered forgetting. 2,000 years later, we still speak his name. The soldiers have become symbols beyond history. For some, they represent discipline. For others, oppression. For some, they are art. For others, warning. They reflect the eyes of those who look. Much like a mirror, they give back what we bring. Do you not think that is the mark of true monuments? They change with time, yet remain the same. Imagine standing among them alone at night. The hangar quiet, lights dimmed, rows upon rows of faces stretching into darkness. You breathe, they do not. You move, they do not. Yet somehow you feel less alive and they feel more alive. Clay carries weight beyond its form, and still the mound waits, the central tomb unopened. Legends whisper, but truth remains hidden. Perhaps it will remain so forever. Perhaps technology will one day allow us to see without loss. Until then, the emperor wins his final battle. His secrets remain his. Do you not wonder if he planned this outcome? That 2 millennia later, we would still stand at the edge of mystery, that we would circle the mound like moths around flame, always near, never inside, his hand still guiding even in absence. The Terracotta Army gives us more than history. It gives us perspective. Life is brief, ambition is flawed, fear is universal, yet clay endures. Silent soldiers remind us that even the strangest dreams can last. They whisper that memory is stronger than flesh. Qin Shi Huang sought eternity through control. He feared death. He commanded armies. He ruled harshly. Yet in the end, it was not his cruelty that gave him immortality, but his clay. 8,000 silent men standing still. They became his true legacy. Do you not think the irony is complete? He built them for himself, yet they belong to us. He wanted protection in death, yet he gave inspiration in life. He wanted soldiers, yet he gave teachers. And so, As we close this long journey through his world, picture the emperor beneath the mound. Picture rivers of mercury flowing still. Picture ceilings painted like stars, still glowing in darkness. Picture clay soldiers above, still waiting patiently. The emperor sleeps, but his army never rests. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let your thoughts wander among them. Walk between rows of silent men. Touch their armor. See their faces. Feel the weight of 2,000 years pressing gently around you. Listen to silence louder than sound. Let the patience of clay steady your breath. Let the watchfulness of soldiers guide you into rest. And as you fall into dreams, remember this: mortality comes for every ruler, every dynasty, every empire, but memory endures. Qin Shi Huang feared death and built an army. We remember death and gain wisdom from his fear. His soldiers guard not his body, but his lesson. That time is stronger than power, but memory is stronger than time.